welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Joining us on the phones right now, listen, Governor Greg Abbott has really been taking fire from all sides, from the right, also from the left. It just doesn't seem like a lot of people have been thrilled with the way Governor Abbott has handled things for totally different reasons, though. And joining us on the phones right now, the executive director of the Texas Democratic Party, Manny Garcia. Manny, good morning. Welcome to the Chad Hasty Show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on the program. I set it up there. Governor Abbott, reopening the state bit by bit. And it seems to me, I don't know if you would agree with this or not, but it seems like the governor's kind of getting criticized from all corners, and including from the Democrats in the state. Why are you guys not thrilled with the way the governor has handled the response to the virus here in the state?
Well, unfortunately, it seems like the governor is more concerned with listening to his political donors than he is with healthcare experts, and keeping people safe. You know, he's rushing this reopening, and there's no real plan here. I mean, we're not hitting his own goals for the number of tests to have in this state, and we're seeing real outbreaks in meatpacking plants. We're seeing real issues around rural hospitals, and it's just the resources have not been provided to keep people safe.
So is it that we're opening too fast, or is it mainly a lack of a plan in your opinion, or is it just everything?
You know, it's all the above. But here's what we got to do. I mean, we all know that at some point we got to come back to to a new normal, and what are things that we're going to be doing moving forward, and still practicing that social distancing, making sure that everybody has a mask. But in order to get to that new normal, in order for the economy to not crater and to keep people safe, you've got to be able to raise up consumer confidence, and you've got to be able to raise up employee confidence. You're not going to get those two things up unless you have widely available tests to everybody, which Texas simply does not have. It is one of the last in the nation in the availability of tests. You're not going to be able to do that unless you increase healthcare access, and we all know that rural hospitals have closed in Texas at a higher rate than any state in the country. And then you've got these outbreaks happening in particular plants that have not been able to stave off this issue. And so unless you can get testing up to a high rate, start putting in those systems to trace where the virus is at, and make sure that people are adhering to quarantine rules, you can't tamp this down.
Do you think we should be shut down still?
I think we should. I think we should be a lot more cautious about what's going on. I mean, even the governor is rushing his own timelines. And, that might make Donald Trump happy, but it's not going to keep employees safe. It's not going to keep consumers safe. It's not going to make sure that we are operating in a way that healthcare experts advise. Well, I mean, Dr. Fauci just recently said that if you reopen too soon, you're going to be needlessly causing additional deaths, additional sacrifice. And when you look at it from an economic perspective, if you open up too soon, these companies cannot handle another wave. These small businesses cannot handle another wave.
I do agree with you that they can't handle being shut down again. I think that would be disastrous for everybody involved. What do you say to, the governor has said that Dr. Burks has signed off on everything. Dr. Burks, she's working along with Dr. Fauci. Really, the only state that I've heard the doctors who have been working as part of this task force up in D.C., the only state that they have really sounded off on was Georgia. That was the only state where they came out and they said, "Hey, y'all gotta slow down a little bit with what you're doing in Georgia." Dr. Burks has said that she that she signed off on the Texas plan.
Look, we're already seeing a rise in cases. We've had 1,000 new coronavirus cases for 5 straight days. That doesn't meet the advice of even Trump's White House of wanting to see a downturn for 2 consistent weeks.
But is that because of increased testing, or is that because of cases? Some of the doctors, even here in Lubbock, they've said we won't see the results of reopening until at least the end of this week, because it takes about 11 days or so for those results to show up.
Oh, and that goes back to the fact that there really wasn't a plan here. I mean, Greg Abbott is cherry picking which data point to look at in order to continue to say we need to continue to open and take care of the stock portfolios of his folks. But that doesn't take care of employees. That doesn't take care of people.
Yeah.
I think we got to be really cautious. These are people's lives that we're dealing with. And the more you rush this without having those tests out there, I mean, there's been promise of tests and more tests for weeks. And we're still not getting to the point where we can really have enough of access to a test available so that if you think you have this, you can quickly get tested for it.
What do you say to the small business owner out there who they've been struggling too? Their livelihood has been impacted. They've been trying. Yesterday, I went and got my hair cut at a local place here in town. They had hand sanitizer all over the place. They had everybody wearing masks when you walked in. They were wiping down everything. They were taking care of everybody. There's probably less of a chance of me catching coronavirus at that location than me going into one of the big box stores and being around a lot of people who were doing some shopping. Mm-hmm. What do you tell that person, that small business owner who, I mean, you're essentially saying right now they should still be shut down?
Look, these folks are going above and beyond, and they're doing the best that they can with what they got, right? They understand the pressures that they're going through, but their employees aren't going to be confident to go to work unless this stuff is taken care of. And, what really small businesses need is a partner in government. They need folks that are going to get resources out to them so that they can have the tests required, so they have the protective gear required, so they have all the sanitizer required to keep everybody safe. And I think we all know that there is a pressure to open up, but if you open up too quickly and more people get hurt, I don't think there's a business owner out there that wants to see their employee die because of coronavirus. I don't think there's a business owner out there that wants to see one of their customers get infected because of this. And
sure.
I think they would want to be cautious. And that's why we really need government to move and provide action so that we can provide relief for folks. I mean, we need another round of cash in the hands of people. We need another round of small business loans. And instead what we got out of the federal government in small business loans is you had all these big companies applying for a small business loan and getting approved for them, and then all the money ran out.
Visiting with the executive director of the Texas Democratic Party, Manny Garcia, here on the Chad Hasty Show. Manny, do you think that this is that this should be an issue that local officials decide when to reopen, or the governor decides when the entire state opens?
But you have to have a strong partnership between local officials and state government. And unfortunately, what we've had here in Texas is you had, at the very beginning of this issue, you had the federal government saying, we're not going to touch it, governors need to decide. And then you had in Texas the governor saying, well, this is going to be a local decision. So then local county judges and mayors made the best decisions that they had with the information that they had in front of them. Many of them started shutting down. And now we got a situation where the governor is saying, no, it's time to open back up. And I'm going to remove some of your power here, and I'm going to open us back up, even though my own administration is seeing that the data doesn't match up with what my guidelines were to open back up. So now I'm going to put you in. So you got local officials in this like catch-22 between the governor first saying it's your responsibility, then saying, no, I'm going to take your responsibility away. It's my responsibility now. We don't have a plan. We don't have an approach. And this is because Greg Abbott has been leading this coronavirus mismanaged response from a position of fear. I mean, you see when he gets, you started it off with this conversation. When he gets attacked from the left and he gets attacked from the right, suddenly he starts freaking out. and there's no real plan that's moving forward, and local officials are left to do the best that they can.
Yeah. So just to clarify, would you be okay with local officials having the bigger the bigger decision making here?
I think we need a statewide framework, and within that statewide framework, there can be ideas about what happens in different local areas if they have the adequate number of testing and they have all the information in front of them. But the problem is we have no statewide framework right now to really work off of there. Now, at the beginning of this crisis, there was conversation about, well, you had some urban counties that were shutting down, but rural counties were not shutting down, as if people don't move across Texas, as if there's not movement into different places. And then, and we know that our rural communities are particularly vulnerable because of high uninsured rates and lack of access to health care.
Is there a state that you would rather? Is there a state that, when you look at it, is doing a better job than Texas?
I think there's a lot of states that are even the Republican state of governor in Ohio is being much more cautious with reopening than other states here. And Greg Abbott polls that he is the third least popular governor on this issue. You got Florida, Georgia, and Texas on this issue, on this response. I think we need to be seeing what.
But we're also not seeing as many deaths as some of the other. I mean, New York, they're doing with I mean, every state's different, right? Texas is not. We're not seeing the amount of deaths here in Texas that you are in places like New Jersey and in New York. It's. I don't see how Texas is doing any harm right now.
And yet half of Texans don't like the response. And yet, we don't have as many tests as other states in the country. We like to pride ourselves in being first in everything, but we can't offer Texans that confidence that if they need a test, they can get a test. If they want a test, they can get a test, and then we can open up because we have a real sense of what we're dealing with. But right now, the data is incomplete. We don't know what private labs are doing. That information's not all going to the state. And we're just, we're trying to make decisions here with not a lot of information in front of us.
All right. Manny Garcia, the executive director of the Texas Democratic Party, appreciate you joining us today and getting your perspective on things.
Appreciate you. Stay safe.
All right. You too. That's Manny Garcia here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO.